Okay, so it's part 3 of lesson 3. So the last thing we're going to do today, we're going to try to do, is take our repository and upload it to Azure. Now, Josh asked a very good question. He said, okay, well, on GitHub, all we have is the website, but what about all this other stuff? We've got the test project, we've got the packages, we've got the solution. Why are we not putting that stuff up on GitHub? And the reason is all that stuff is just really for development. None of that stuff needs to live on the web server when our website is live. We basically just want on our development machine, so we don't have to include those. So I'm going to go through the process of setting this up on Azure. Now, if you do not have an Azure account, there's a couple things you need to do. We've created an account for you, but you need to set up your login. So the first thing to do is if you check in your student email and do a search for the word imagine, and you should have instructions about how to access your account. So Imagine is Microsoft's program that gives students, computer studies students, free software. So here's how you get to the store. So you may have to go this way. The website, it's on Blackboard actually. Right here in that announcement I made last week, this link that says onthehub.com. So right in our welcome link, there's the link to the Imagine store. So if you already have your Azure account set up, you're fine. You shouldn't need to do this. And their site, as you can see, is super fast. See if we can get here another way. I'm just waiting to see if this is actually going to load for us. It's not looking very encouraging at the moment. Much I can do if that link is down. So there's two things you will need if you don't have an Azure account. The first one is when this site eventually comes up, which may or may not be during today's class, you need to go and create and log into your Imagine account. That allows you to download any Microsoft software, and it allows you access to get a code, an access code, to use the Azure hosting service. Just going to see if there's any other way for us to get in here. No, it doesn't look like. So we may have to review it next week. But if you don't have an account, I want you to try this link before next week's class and try and get your account set up. The other thing, once your account is set up inside on Blackboard, inside of Tools and Resources, the very last item is this PDF. It's how, once your Imagine account is set up, how you get access to Azure. So it's step-by-step instructions. So you need to use a private window and a Microsoft account that is not your Georgian login. So either a live.com, a hotmail.com, or an outlook.com account. You probably have one of those. If you don't, set one up for free. So you can't sign in with your Microsoft account. So you'll need to go through these instructions to set up your account. And then this explains how to get access to Azure. You go to the Imagine website, which is here. And we've laid all of this out for you. And then there'll be a link here. There'll be a link here that asks you to verify your student status. And there's an access code that you can get on the Imagine store. It's a 25-character code. You'll need this in order to be able to host your applications. But until their website loads, I can't show you where to go to get it. So you need to go to the Imagine store, set up your account, and then set up your Azure, get your Azure access. So those instructions are here.
So we can't use our student email for that?
No, you can't. You have to use another Microsoft account. It uses both your student email as well as a secondary, but it uses your Microsoft login primarily. So I am going to log into the Azure portal just to see how we can deploy and connect our website and get it running from GitHub. So I will have to go over this again next week. So I'm going to open a private window where I'm not logged into my Georgian account, and I'll go to the Azure portal. I'm logging in with my personal Microsoft login that I created. It's not my Georgian credential. I'll keep trying this site in case it wants to load for us. So this is what our hosting environment looks like. And the way to know if you have an active Imagine subscription, and you want it to say Imagine, because Imagine means they won't charge you. They won't ask you for money. You're a student. So the way to check if your subscription is active is once you're logged in here, and so if you can get in, you can check this down at the bottom under Billing and Subscriptions. If your when your Imagine account is active, it should show us. So when I click subscriptions, it shows me I have a Microsoft Imagine subscription that's active. So that means I can host my stuff. Does anybody have an Imagine subscription, but it says not active? I had students in my classes last week in that situation. Who has an active description they can see? Okay, well, 3 is better than 0. So if you've used Azure before, try and log into the portal and click Billing and Subscriptions. So if you have an active subscription, you can host your stuff and you're fine. If it shows you a subscription here, but it says it's not active, let me know, please. So I'm going to deploy my website. With Azure, one of the neat things is we don't need to use FTP. We can connect our Azure website to GitHub. So every time we push new changes to GitHub, Azure will automatically copy those changes to the live web server. They do this every 60 seconds. It's set to look for changes. So to make a new site, which I'm not going to do every week, but I'll do it today, if I click on New and Web App, I realize not everyone's able to do this. I'm going to make a new site using my Imagine subscription. You can pick any location and any resource group. And I'll click this little pin to dashboard. That'll give me a link on the main page to my site. And then we'll click create. So it'll take a minute or two and it will set up an empty website for us. So for those of you who have already used Azure before, some of you use it in Scott's class, I think. He probably had you set up an FTP account to copy your files, which we can do, but it's much easier to just use GitHub. So our website says it's set up here. So once our website's set up, it gives me a link to it. It'll just give us a kind of a starter template. So we don't want this stuff. We want our ASP.NET Web application copied from GitHub. So here's how we set that up. We've got this under deployment. There's a deployment options link. So click deployment options. So the first option is where are we deploying from? Where does the code? So if we click that, here are all of our choices. So Azure can connect to any one of these. We're going to connect to GitHub. So I'll click GitHub. And now you probably have to click authorization. So if you get this, click authorization, and it will ask you to log into your GitHub account. So your Azure panel will have your GitHub credential. Once you've logged in, it will say choose the project because you'll have many different projects on GitHub. So we have to pick which GitHub repository we want to use for this website. So I'll click on project, and I want the music store repository we just created last hour. And then it will ask me for the branch. Well, we only have one branch, which is called master. So I can click OK. So we're deploying from our GitHub account in our music store project. So when you make another assignment, like next week when you make a lab, you're going to have to make a brand new Visual Studio project, a brand new repository on GitHub, and hopefully a brand new project on Azure. So we'll connect that website to your Lab 1 repository. So we'll click OK. So it says it's connected to GitHub, which is good. So now when I go back, we can see it's trying to copy the code we put on GitHub. It's trying to fetch. It may work, it may not. It's a bit temperamental. Hopefully it works. And if we can get this set up, every 60 seconds, it will automatically check for a new version. Which didn't work. Let's see why. So it's giving me a log. Project references packages that are missing. Okay, Google, how do we fix this slow problem? We'll check one thing here. I don't think this will solve the problem, but we'll try. Yeah, all packages are already installed. All right, I'm going to have to think about why we got this. Obviously, there's something it didn't like in my configuration. I can try one more time, but I don't think it's going to work. Did it work for you, Daniel?
Yeah, that we draw.
You didn't get the same error I did, though.
No, I was hoping I got the same error window.
So it's this package here. So one of those support libraries it wants that it doesn't have. This compiler. Interesting. No, failed again. Okay, so I will have to figure out, which is okay because I will go through the process again next week. So before next week's class, please try this link, which hopefully will be running by then. So you can set up your account and follow the instructions in this PDF. So that hopefully everybody has access to the server for next week. I realize a few people were a bit behind today because you didn't have everything installed. So that you're not behind, there's a couple things you need to make sure you do every week. Get everything installed before next week's class, please. Come to office hours. Of office hours tomorrow and Thursday. And I also have time next Monday to help you. Okay. But you need to come to class set up because if your environment's not set up right, it's hard to keep up in the class. Okay, Raj?
If you want to upload to FTP account that FileZilla thing and like an existing website with Microsoft Azure, what should be uploaded?
You can create a new one, yeah. So rather than trying here, if you go to deployment credentials, you can set up an FTP username and password.
So if already settled up and FileZilla is running, what should we copy? Like which files should we put on the hosting?
Basically everything inside of your project folder.
I did that, but it's not working. Okay, we'll try next week.
Yeah.
Or I'll try it.
Okay. All right, we'll solve our errors and hopefully everybody will have their hosting account set up for next week. So next week, we're going to work more with views. I'm going to give you a lab and we'll try again to get our stuff running on Azure.